Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we're going to go over 5 decks you can take to the historic no ban list event on Arena. This event has been super fun. It's a great way to kind of get a feel for the historic format, albeit this format is crazy busted, but it is an all-access event, meaning as long as you add the cards to a deck list, select the deck list as no ban list historic, you don't need to own the cards. So you can play any card that's on Arena. Unnerfed cards, banned cards, do like stupid combo things, or just play like really powerful effects. We're going to go over 5 decks today, and then I do have a video of gameplay demo of one of the decks itself. But the event's a lot of fun to play. You can win 1,000 XP, which is really kind of irrelevant, but it's more just to kind of play out cards, see what's fun, and I'll paste all these deck lists in the video description so you can get started. Like, I was planning on taking a break from Arena for 2 weeks, and this got me back into it, so kudos, you unban Lightning Bolt and surprise, surprise, and come back. But the first deck we are going to be looking at is Yorion Field of the Dead. So, banned card number 1, Field of the Dead. So, Field of the Dead is a very powerful land. You have 7 or more land types as Field of the Dead is in play, and then any subsequent land creates a 2/2 zombie. The more copies of Field of the Dead you have, they will stack. So you look at this very long list of lands, you'll notice a bunch of one-of lands, but basically we're playing Bant, blue, white, green, and what we're trying to do is use the combination of, so Primeval Titan helps us find our initial Field of the Deads, but then you can scape shift and sacrifice any number of lands. If you do, then you put that many lands into play, so you can just trigger a whole bunch of extra zombies. The cool thing is you can do it at instant speed on your opponent's end step by plussing Teferi 3. So in Historic right now, Teferi is legal, but it's Teferi 4. The kind of stats have been changed around a bit. But this version, you can +1 and then cast it on their end step and just make a huge army of zombies. So this particular Teferi also banned. We have the Oko Thief of Crowns, found pretty much everywhere. So this makes food tokens. It can turn any creature or artifact into a 3/3 elk. So hey, coolest thing you have, you're a 3/3 now. And then you can -5 it and exchange control of target artifact or creature you control with target and opponent controls with power 3 or less. And then lastly, we have Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. This card is perfect for this deck. It's going to ramp you. It's going to gain you life. It's going to draw you cards. Everything you want to do in this pile. Another card that's banned. So we're using a bunch of banned cards. We also have Swords to Plowshare. 1 mana, deal with any creature, exile it. They gain some life, but we don't care because we got the Zombie Lords. In terms of our accelerants, we have Delighted Halfling, which notably can make mana of any color to spend for a legendary creature, and they are uncounterable. So turn 2, Teferi, Oko, or Uro on the play. Quite the hassle for our opponent to deal with. We also have Gilded Goose, which synergizes well with the food tokens from Oko. Explore, draws a card, plays an additional land. We like Tangleflow or Hedron. If we have a lot of lands, it can be early ramp, but it counts as a land itself. You'll notice that we also have like a Myria as just another utility kind of spell land in that regard. A couple copies of Hydroid Crisis to draw you a bunch of cards. Elvish Rejuvenator to just help you dig for the lands. And then, like I said, Scape Shift. You can play Once Upon a Time, but I want to naturally have a higher land count in this deck, and there's just a lot of good spells that I wanted to play instead. I would rather get something that could put the land into play or accelerate me into one of my 3 drops on turn 2. So, Field of the Dead, first one up. Next up, this is a list actually from my buddy from my LGS, and this is It Prowess Breach, so our first of the Ragavan deck. So, powerful 1-drop Modern Legacy Vintage staple. 1 mana, 2/1 Monkey. When the Monkey deals damage to the player, you get to create a treasure. You exile the top card of the library. Till the turn, you may cast that card. So notably, it doesn't say as though it was any color, so you do need to use your treasure potentially, but this could get you card advantage. You can also dash from your hand, so 2 mana, it comes into play, gains haste, can attack for the turn, then returns to hand. So ramps you, steals cards, card advantage, must answer a threat, otherwise it runs away with the game. Another banned card we have in the format is Mishra's Bauble. So this is a 0 mana artifact that when it comes into play, you get to look at the top card of your library. And then you get to draw a card. You're like, but how is this good? Well, it's 0 mana, triggers prowess, it's free card advantage. It's effectively making you dilute your deck. You get information from your opponent's deck, you get information from your own deck. just to kind of see how you want to play those lines. But the deck's got a bunch of kind of like cheap creatures that get bigger with haste, so prowess effects with like Swiftspear, Soul Scar, or Sprite Dragon that gets bigger whenever you cast non-creature spell, so you care about stuff like that. Spell Pierce for disruption. Lightning Bolt, also banned, deals 3 damage to any target for 1 mana. An iconic card I desperately want for my mono red decks in Historic. Memory Lapse is kind of a tempo play. Counterspell is unbanned in this format, but double blue is a little tough on the mana. Whereas this is really, you just want tempo. You put it on top of their library, you can screw up their draws, get stuff like that. Iteration for card advantage. And then lastly, Underworld Breach lets you recast stuff from your graveyard, get a bunch of cheap effects to kind of storm off pseudo in the way. You also have access to like Fiery Islet as a utility land. You can play something like Hall of the Storm Giants or Sokuzan. It's probably just free in that regard anyways, so you could probably add that to the mana base, but this is looking to go fast. From there, don't die on me, Arena, we go to Winona. So Winona is nerfed in Historic. It looks at only, so it only puts 1 card into play, whereas Winona regular, basically for each non-human that you attack with, gets put a human into play. So the core of the deck, what we're trying to do is use things like Giver Runes, not Mother of Runes, it's her sister. So it can be protection, but also later it's a core cleric, so it can attack in. We have a lot of accelerants, so Elvish Mystic, as well as Llanowar Elf, Lotus Cobra, and a couple copies of Prosperous Innkeeper. Notably, all of these ramp us into Winona early, and then can attack to trigger. Once Upon a Time helps us dig for the Winona, and then we have also, these are all our hits. So I'm going big, we're going hard. So Suruk and Goreclaw, Human Bear. 6 mana, trample. Other creatures you control have trample. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield in your control, you put a 1/1 counter on it, gains haste on a turn. Then you have Tovolar's Huntmaster, makes a bunch of bodies. You flip into the Werewolf. You have Agent of Treachery to steal your opponent's stuff. Then you have Angrath's Marauders. The only deck this card has ever seen play in. Never will it ever go into any deck, but 7 mana if a source would deal damage to a player or permanent, deals double that damage instead. So put that with trample, and you're just dealing huge amounts of damage to your opponent. So Winona here. We then go to the deck I've been playing all day, and it is No Ban Monkey, Grixis style. So this is, I started off with Grixis Shadow, and I didn't really like the Death Shadow. In all honesty, like having played this list, I'm actually going to suggest cutting Counterspell and just playing more Spell Pierce, it's easier on the mana. But the core of this deck, kind of elements of that Izzet deck, but you're not looking to necessarily go super fast. You're looking to kind of interact, play a threat, protect it. You have things like Thoughtseize. This is a Lurrus deck, so you can play stuff, but really powerful cards like Disrupt Their Hand. Dragon Rage Chandler can enable Delirium quite easily, help you shape your draws. Bauble counts as an artifact, can trigger the Dragon Rage. Bunch of counter spells, Snapcaster to get stuff back, Orcish Bowmasters to kind of interfere with your opponent's draws, gives you bodies that way. And you have Sorin's Ransom that lets you kind of factor fiction, fill your graveyard, give something a ring bearer so then you become unblockable, and you get a whole bunch of value like that paired with Ragavan. This is the deck I've been having a ton of fun with. I have a video up if you want to see it. I think we lost 1 game the entire time playing, where our opponent top decked 5-color the Izzet Reborn and kind of ran us over that way. And then lastly, this is probably one of the most broken things you could do in the format. The iconic, an entire site is named after this card, Channel. So 2 mana, sorcery. Till the end of turn, anytime you would activate a mana ability, you may pay 1 MetLife. If you do, add 1 mana. So the core of this deck is find Channel. So you can use Demonic Tutor or assemble a team to find you your channels, bunch of accelerants, Once Upon a Time to help you with lands, and then a bunch of colorless stuff. So as early as on turn 2, you can hardcast Ulamog, exile their lands, cast Kozilek, and then you can counter a bunch of their stuff, draw cards. Ugin, you can Emrakul, take over their turn. Karn, I forgot to add a couple things to the sideboard, which I'll add in, but basically you can go with the Karn board. You can do 1 ring in here, and then you can just basically play whatever big artifacts you want. I got 1 ring, I got God Pharaoh's Statute Attacks, Chromatic Orrery that you can turn the mana into colored mana. It also draws you cards. Platinum Angel so you can't lose the game. Cityscape Leveler in here. You can play Portal to Phyrexia. And then I don't know, maybe Stone Brain for combo decks, and then boom, we got a Karn board. But this deck's looking to just like, if you want to play the biggest, stupid, fattiest thing on turn 2, this is a deck to try out as well. So that's 5 quick decks. Give it a shot. If you, a lot of folks are saying there's a teamer version where you do like Regavan into Oko Uro. Folks are trying out a whole bunch of different things. If you have some fun deck lists, things that you're successful with, drop it in the comments so others can share. And really the whole goal of this is to have some fun, try out some decks. Hopefully they see some cards can be unbanned, 2 weeks back, and we can have some fun in that respect. If you enjoy this type of content, we do weekly meta breakdowns. We'll be back after the break. It could be in early access, but we are trying to hit 10,000 subs on the channel. You can see in the ticker on the bottom right, we're at 9,787, so just 200 and change away from that 10,000 mark. It'd be great if we could hit it by the end of August. So if you do enjoy this type of content, you want meta stats, what are the best decks in each format? We do those weekly. Standard, Explorer, Historic, Alchemy, best of 1, best of 3. As long as there's data available, we will kind of highlight from both Untapped Premium as well as MTGO, so kind of your full set of meta stats. In any case, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great one and stay safe out there.